Hello all, it's Jmix here, and I humbly ask all my YouTube subs and viewers to check out Riskie Forever's new book, From the Streets to the Industry, My Life and Art on Death Row Records. It's a must-read for any Death Row Records fan. It has behind-the-scenes stories and never-before-seen artwork. Get your copy today by going to Amazon.com, your local Barnes & Noble, or you can check out www.riskieforever.com. That's www.riskieforever.com. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump right on in to my full-length interview with Machiavelli artist Riskie Forever.
This is a Jmix exclusive.
You have a new book out, From the Streets to the Industry, My Life and Art in Death Row Records. What was your motivation to write this book, and how has the reception been so far?
I've been getting good reception from everybody that's purchased the first run of the book. I just switched publishers, so I started my own publishing company. But so far, I've been getting good reviews. The reason why I decided to put a book out was right now, just trying to cross over, from everything that I was doing back in the day. It's like historical art, and nobody really ever got the opportunity to see who I was or what I had going on. Like I like to tell a lot of artists these days, a lot of people, they have social media to promote who they were. But back then in that day, we didn't have social media. We didn't have like an Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or nothing of that sort. So just me basically getting out here and trying to tell everybody who I was kind of, it was kind of crazy for me to just keep on doing that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to reintroduce myself, and by reintroducing myself was basically writing this book, showing people all of the artwork that I've done, because plenty of people already know who know the artwork when they see it. They just don't know who the guy is behind it. And then I just wanted to basically bring, my story from Death Row Records to light. And I kind of just wanted to let everybody know, when people hear Death Row, the first thing that they want to do, they want to think negative about the situation. But I kind of wanted to let everybody know it wasn't an all negative experience. There were some good experiences involved in being at Death Row as well. And I wanted to kind of bring that to the light, too.
Now, you've made yourself a celebrity with your artwork. Do you consider yourself to be naturally talented, or was this something that you had to work at?
I mean, if you read my book, you'll see it was something that I had to work at. I was influenced by my aunt. I used to sit on her lap every day and look at her draw, and I wanted to be an artist, to kind of model myself after my aunt, because my aunt was real gifted at it, and I didn't really know how to draw. So I started, like, tracing out of coloring books and things of that sort. And eventually, like I wrote in my book, I ended up running into a little problem that kind of embarrassed me to the point to where, I wanted to teach myself how to draw. So I was self-taught on everything, and it's just, I don't know. I learned, and I never really even received any schooling or anything other than high school, and then learning different techniques from the streets.
Do you have any advice out there for people that want to go into the art profession? Because you're so acclaimed, do you have any advice that you would give people that are looking to get into that avenue?
The advice I would give is always copyright your stuff. Don't let anybody copyright your stuff for you. Always, always, always make sure that you're taken care of financially. Always put your best effort forth, and stay grounded to what you want to do. And don't let anybody take you off of that course. Whatever you have made up in your mind, what you want to do with your talent, go for it. Don't let anybody change your thoughts.
Now, you speak of learning to draw and from your aunt and tracing coloring books and comics and stuff like that. When was the transition? What was the turning point to where you thought that, hey, I could do this for a living?
You know what? It was high school. High school after I learned how to airbrush. Every football game, everybody would come to me and they would want me to airbrush them something to wear to the football games on Friday nights. And that's when I started figuring, like, yo, I can really make money doing this, and I don't have to, depend on anybody else giving me anything, because it was like my mom and dad, they were giving me lunch money to go to school with, but after a while, I was just telling them like, yo, I didn't need it, because I was getting so many different people that were coming at me, wanting me to do art projects, airbrushing. I mean, to be honest, like in art class, people used to pay me to do their assignments for them. So I knew that this could be like a very good thing for me to grow up and make and take care of myself off of.
Because you were doing some of their art for them, was there ever an experience where you did someone's work for them and then they, got a good grade or won a prize for it?
You know what? I think I did in a high school contest. I had helped so many people, and it was crazy because I came in second place to something that I helped somebody with, and they won first place. So that was kind of ironic to me. It made me not want to do nothing else for nobody else.
Now, in your career, did you have any roadblocks? Did you have anybody ever telling you that you couldn't make it or that your art wasn't any good? Did you have any haters?
No, I never had any haters. Everybody that I ran into, during my career, they always encouraged me to strive forward. You know what I mean? I've never had anybody come to me and say, yo, you're not going to be able to make it. You're not good as this person. You're not that great. I've never had anybody do that. All my friends, they've always backed me up and always encouraged me to take my art, one step forward than what I was already taking it. So no, never no haters.
Is it true that you linked up with Death Row while working at the swap meet?
Well, actually, that's true. But in a sense, I was still, actually, my friend Clifford, he had a shop in the swap meet. We were working in the swap meet, but at that time we had just moved into a store, which was right across the street, because he was actually tired of working for the swap meet because he couldn't do things like how he wanted to, and he couldn't stay as late as he wanted, because at the swap meet you only had certain hours you could be there. So what he wanted to do was open up his own store, so that way he could stay in as late as he wanted to. So at that time, when I got introduced to Suge and at Death Row Records, I was working with him at his store. So that was right across the street from the Compton swap meet. But all of my life, airbrushing, just starting off like commercially, I was in the Compton swap meet.
Can you tell the fans out there about the day that you met Suge Knight and Tupac, and were you a prior fan of his?
Yeah, I've been always a fan of Tupac. I mean, from the Juice days. I mean, and I kept a real close eye on him when he went to prison for the first time. I mean, Me Against the World was one of my favorite albums. So it was very real. It was just super real for me to be able to meet him, which Suge introduced me to Tupac the day that they were shooting the California Love version at the California Love video version at the Compton swap meet. I happened to meet Suge that day. He introduced me to Pop. Pop wanted me to work on something for America's Most Wanted, but that didn't happen. I ended up doing the insert, working with Hen Dogg, before he passed, working on the insert for the All Eyes on Me album. So that's what kicked off my career. We're working for Death Row.
Had you met Suge prior to this? Had you seen him around the neighborhood?
Yeah, I saw him around the neighborhood on a few different occasions, but he had never got the opportunity to see my work. He only knew that I knew how to paint, but he had never saw any of my artwork. Because at that time I was rapping, so when I introduced myself to Suge, I introduced myself as a rapper. I didn't even introduce myself as an artist. But my cousin Gina, she ended up showing Suge some of my artwork, and at that time he really wanted to sit down with me and meet me. But at that time when I went to meet him, he was having another meeting with MC Hammer and Tupac, so I wasn't able to sit down and talk with him that day. But he was able to see my work.
You brought up that you said that Pac wanted you to work on Two of America's Most Wanted, some art for it. Did you ever get it? Did you draft anything for that?
No, actually, I didn't. He had just talked to me about it, so I wasn't sure. I was just waiting on a phone call to see what I was going to do. He looked through my portfolio. He liked my work, so that's what he said he wanted me to work on. That was going to be the first project, but it didn't happen that way. When I got the phone call to actually work on something, it was for the insert of the album. So I really didn't complain. I just knew that I had a big opportunity ahead of me.
Now, the insert of that album is a pretty famous insert. What was your inspiration for that? Was that what you saw at the video shoot, or was it just something that came off the top of your head?
Actually, I worked with Hen Dogg on that project. Hen Dogg, Hen Dogg brought a couple of sketches through of an idea he had. I looked at the sketches. I started putting together, a drawing off of his sketches, and I started painting it. We were working on that project for maybe about 3 days. I talk about all of this in my book. We worked on a project for about 3 days. We finally got it done. When we got it done, he took me up to the death row offices to present it. And at that time, I wasn't even hired. I was just being hired. I was just working as a freelance artist.
What was Pac's reaction? Did you get to show it to Pac?
You know what? I didn't get to show it directly to Pop. What I did was I walked it into Death Row Interscope. At that time, we shared the same building at 10900 Murdoch Plaza in Westwood. So when I walked it in, we walked it in over to Angel. I forgot Angel's last name, but she was actually the marketing person over Interscope. So we walked over to her and presented it to her, and she took it from there. But maybe a few, because I turned that in, I believe it was December of 95 when I did the All Eyes on Me insert. We turned it in to Angel, and after that, I didn't see Tupac until actually I got hired in February. And once I saw him, and he found out that was me that had painted it, and he saw me, he just started giving me major props then.
I don't want to give too much away because I do want people to buy your book. But from the time of the meeting Suge, what was the process that landed you, basically in the art department at Death Row? Were there subsequent meetings? I want to preface this. I've heard people say that Suge Knight had a weird way of hiring people, and I was just curious. Some people have just said that he would call them in the office when they already had the job and then announce it to everybody without telling them. So I guess my original question, was there a process that landed you actually working for them? Were there subsequent meetings?
You know what? Actually, it was kind of a process because once I met them the first time, it didn't go so easy for my first meeting when he introduced me to Tupac. I ended up being reintroduced to Suge by a lot of people that I knew from the neighborhood that kept bringing me back up to him, which made him actually take a look at me deeper because it wasn't like he was hiring an outsider, somebody that he didn't know. So by everybody talking to me, and it was people that I knew that he knew, I guess he felt comfortable enough to hire me. So he gave me a job. The first day of work, I showed up for the first day of work. I had a meeting scheduled with him. He didn't show up for late. Next thing I know, MC Hammer was coming up asking, well, who was Riskie? Where am I at? And then when I told him who I was, he told me Suge would be up in a couple of minutes to meet him. I met with Suge from there. He told me I was going to make a lot of money. Next thing I know, I was being hired on Death Row Records, and I was given a fat check for working on the insert on the album.
Now, some people have said that they were either not paid properly or mistreated while at Death Row. Were you treated well working at the label?
I feel like I was treated well. I was given a lot of bonuses. I never wanted for anything. If I wanted something, all I had to do was put in a payment slip. I could put a payment slip in, actually a petty cash slip. I could put in a petty cash slip, tell them what I needed, and I was basically getting that like clockwork. I never had any problems like getting any funds or having a problem getting my check from Death Row. Never that.
Now, you've said before in previous interviews, and I've seen some of your artwork, that you're a fan of the Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, I was always a fan, even before I got on the Death Row Records. But when I got on the Death Row Records, that wasn't a conversation piece of mine.
So that's something you just kept to yourself. You didn't catch any flack for that.
I mean, I didn't catch any flack for that, but I mean, I'm not gonna go to work bumping Biggie in the office. That I wasn't gonna do. Fair enough.
Did you create any art for projects or albums that were scrapped or did not pan out?
I did projects for Rage's album, Necessary Roughness, that didn't come out. I did 2 Gangsta for Radio artwork that didn't come out. I did a lot of stuff for Nate Dogg that didn't have the opportunity. So that's just to name a few albums. But, I mean, I've done all types of artwork around Death Row Records.
And I'm assuming that you go on that topic at length in your book?
Yeah, actually, my book is filled with unreleased artwork, stories talking about the artwork. I mean, my book isn't just a book; it's actually a piece of art. You know what I mean? It has every page is artistic. It took a while for me to design this book and put this book together actually how I wanted it to be. And it goes from, it's like a timeline to everything that I went through at death row. I mean, from the first start, started me walking in, the first day of me being employed there, through all of my projects, every album cover that I've done there. So it's not just your average book. I mean, if anybody wants to collect death row memorabilia, I mean, my book is definitely that. And I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I mean, it's definitely that. It has everything in there. I tell you, everything in that book is from my perspective as an artist at death row, working there every day. So it is what it is.
No doubt. You had brought up Hen Dogg. Not a lot is known about him. Could you tell the fans out there about your friendship and your partnership at Death Row and what he was like as a person?
I mean, Hen Dogg was one of the coolest people you would ever know. I mean, he used to pick me up for work every single day. I mean, he would drive from his house in Bellflower all the way to my house to pick me up, and we would drive all the way to West LA. I mean, Sibo was one of his favorite artists, so we would be listening to Sibo like almost every day. I mean, that time with him, I mean, that was just a really cool experience. I mean, because he basically opened the door for me and pushed me through. He never was like, you know, even though he was an artist too, he never tried to hold me back or confine me to anything because he was afraid I was going to take the spotlight from him. He always pushed me through and encouraged me also to go ahead and do what I do because he knew that there were things art-wise that he couldn't do that I could get done. And he never, like I said, he never tried to hold me back. He always pushed me. So, I mean, to this day, I mean, I miss Hen Dogg. I mean, our birthdays are on the exact same day, which is August the 16th. I mean, we spent almost every day together. I remember sometimes when we moved to 8200 Worship Boulevard, we would catch the elevator all the way to the top of the penthouse, and we would be out on the roof next to the billboard, just smoking blunts, just looking at traffic, just looking at the world. I mean, I just experienced so much with him, and I just hate that, you know, he's not here today.
I know that you currently have a friendly relationship of fellow artist Joe Cool, since we're on the topic of artists at Death Row. Was there any friction between you two at the time that you came to Death Row? Any competition, or was he even around at that time? For those that don't know, that Joe Cool is the artist that did Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style cover.
I mean, Joe Cool wasn't. He was around, but then he wasn't around. He wasn't the type of artist like Hen Dogg and I were, where we reported to work every day and we were in the office every day. That just wasn't Joe Cool's style. You know what I mean? Joe Cool worked directly with Snoop, which is his cousin. He did a lot of work with the Dog Pound, and I mean, he was a part of their posse, so it wasn't for him to be there every day. He was busy with his cousin, and he did other things besides hard work for Snoop. So he was never there. I mean, there was a little friction when we worked on the Dogfather album, you know, with with me doing some of the artwork, and you know, it was kind of a mixed up story. He felt like I was trying to take credit for it, which I wasn't, because I was giving him his credit, but it just didn't pan out that way. It was basically he got paid. Well, no, he didn't get paid. I got paid for it, and he didn't get paid for it, and that's where the confusion had came in at. But I mean, since then, me and Joe Cool have talked about that. That's wrong in the past. I mean, he calls us the partners in crime, and I mean, that's my boy. I call him whenever I need to talk about anything. I always call Joe Cool. We just have a real serious friendship. You know what I mean? Because we feel like not just we. I feel like there is not another artist, since Hen Dogg is not here, that I can go sit down with that has the same accomplishments as me, like historic platinum album covers like that. We're the only two. So I look up to him. He looks up to me. we motivate each other. So I mean, that's my friend for life. Like I can't describe it any other way than that.
This is a Jmix exclusive.
What up, shut up?